Hey folks, and welcome into a new edition of Coaches and Q. We're switching things up a little bit, as you can tell by myself doing the intro. We're over here in Smithville, Tennessee, near DeKalb County High School at the Lipstick Pig. This is a fairly new joint in the barbecue circuit, as it's only been open since July 1st of 2021. What they might lack in history, however, they don't lack forward experience. They have a wide selection of barbecue to tickle your palate all across the Upper Cumberland. So I told you that we're switching things up a little bit, and to show you why, I'm going to let Scott, who's doing the filming, tell you what we're doing next.
We're going inside, see what's smoking. Coach, you've been head coach of DeKalb County for 17 years now. And you've got a little interesting story about how you became head coach here in DeKalb County. Why don't you share that with us?
The people here, they've probably heard this story. I've said it at the banquet a few times at the end of the year, but I played college baseball. I come in one weekend, and my uncle, he was a junior pro head football coach, and he asked me to go to a championship game with him. I'm not doing anything else, and I didn't even know he was coaching, and he said, I'll give you a shirt, we'll get you in for free, and you can be the water boy. I was like, okay, sure. And sure enough, they were. I'm pretty sure we were in Livingston. I think we were playing Livingston and for the championship. And I just, I loved it. I found myself talking to the kids and like, hey, do this, do that. And he's seen that. So he was like, well, next year, you won't be in college. Why don't you come help me coach? So everything started in junior pro. I was 19, 20 years old. For 3 years, I assisted with my uncle, and then they got out of it, and he coached in the other levels as well. There was a couple years he coached all three levels, junior pro, middle school, high school. But for the next 3 years, I was the head coach of the junior pro program, the 10, 11-year-old. And in the middle of all that, I figured out that, hey, I'm passionate about this. And, I look back over the course of my life, and a lot of the things that I was successful in, it revolved around teaching others. So I just found my passion with football and, wanting to teach others. And we were very successful in junior pro. And, the history of DeKalb County, hadn't always been about success as far as football goes. And my thought was, well, if we can be good here in junior pro, let's try to keep these kids together and let's build this thing for high school. So I decided to go back to college. I went back to MTSU, got a business education degree, and in my mind, I was like, hey, I want to come back and help. I want to be an assistant. I want to help. So I graduated in December of 2004, and, just some things happened, and I had to apply to be a teacher and all of that, and the head coaching spot was actually open, and I never applied to be the head coach. I remember it, like we've talked, I was playing golf, and the central office called and said, hey, are you willing to teach algebra? I was like, well, I'll be a janitor as long as I can get in the system, as long as I can help football, get in there. I just had a newborn, so I said, yeah, I need a job. So they said, well, come up the next day. We'll hire you to teach algebra, and we'll be good to go. I was like, all right. Still, nothing was ever said about football. So I did all my paperwork to be an algebra teacher, and I'm a computer teacher, basically. And after all that was done, Jim McCormick was the director of schools, which he had known me since I was little bitty, and he called me in there and congratulated me on being a new teacher, and then asked, well, what about head football coach? And I said, man, I'm willing to help whoever you got. I said, so who do you got? He said, well, I hope I'm looking at him. And I'm like, I'm 26 years old, and I sit there and I'm like, hey, this is what I wanted. I knew eventually, yes, I would love to be the head coach at DeKalb County High School. It's where I graduated and all that. So I sit there for about 30 seconds, and I looked at him. I said, if you're willing to give it to a 26-year-old who only has 6 years of coaching 10-year-olds, I said, you do it. I said, with an understanding that it'll probably start off rough, but the one thing I'll promise you is nobody will outwork us. And he said, well, congratulations, you're the head coach. So that's how it all started. So the joke is my career started as a water boy, and it's evolved to this. So if you count the junior pro 6 years, the 17 years at high school, all the years that I played for junior pro, middle school, I'm 43 years old right now, and there's only been 6 years of my entire life that have not been a part of DeKalb County football. So, and I've told everybody, I'll coach here for 30 years or I'll coach nowhere.
Outstanding.
Coach, going back to that first season, making that transition, because you'd had so much success with junior pro,
yeah.
What was the biggest thing you felt like you had to adjust to moving up to the high school level like that?
Man, I didn't have a clue. The other kicker to that was I got the job July the 28th, I believe. Mm-hmm. So it's like 2.5 weeks or something other until you got the first game. So that first year, I coached a high school football program the same way I coached 10-year-old junior pro. And they were running wing T, had been running wing T for years. That wasn't my forte. So, we come in right there on the first day. I've got like 24 kids, if that. And there had been some that had quit, had got kicked off. And I was like, well, we're going to start from scratch. So y'all get a hold of these guys. If they want a chance, they need to come talk to me. And I pulled kind of a Coach Carter thing. So they had to run like miles and miles to get back on the team. And they did. And we started everything with 3 expectations, and we still have those today. They're still hanging in there, and that's basically, just great choices, great effort, and golden rule. That was the first 3 things that we established and didn't even have rules. I was like, guys, if we do these 3 things, we don't even need rules. So now we still don't have rules. We have standards. I tell them all the time, rules are made to be broken, standards are made to be upheld, but everything is branched from that. And then Tiger Pride evolved, and that's just taking pride in everything, and that's all about people. But that first year, I can remember trading film with some coaches, and they're like, yeah, we run a 4-man front with a 3 in the shade, and me and Coach Webb got in the truck, like, what's a 3 in the shade? So it's just, we knew how to work hard.
Right.
We knew how to make our kids work hard, and we had a better team than what we showed those first couple of years, but the coaches wasn't good enough. I mean, that's just flat out. But the promise I made was – nobody will outwork us. And so we established a work ethic. We established how we wanted to do things, and we got busy getting better as coaches, and we're still doing that to this day.
Oh, well, what are some of you've been here, pretty much your entire career for sure.
Yes.
But you're from here. What are some of the challenges of a rural program that you see that versus some of the programs that maybe like Cookeville or closer into Hendersonville and Murfreesboro?
Well, especially a trend these last few years, and everybody in our district, we talk and kind of, it's just numbers. We only had 22 guys out for spring ball. We had a very good spring, but right now when we get our 8th graders, we think we'll have about 50 to 52. So, and that's fine. It used to bother me. I'm like, man, I want numbers. It looks good, but really we want guys that want to be there and want to work. So if that's 20, 30, 50, 80, whatever it may be, I kind of like the small town football. I mean, that's where I've been. It's really all I know. Outside looking in on these bigger programs and things like that, it still comes down to 11 guys knowing what to do. So we've played bigger teams. We've been successful against bigger teams. But, I would say numbers. I would also say there may be more stress and more headache the bigger the program may be. But in my eyes, like I said, DeKalb County sits on a pedestal when it comes to me. I was the kid in high school that had my room painted black and gold. And like I said, I'll coach here, I'll coach nowhere. So,
how difficult is it nowadays, especially in light of all the spotlight that's been put on safety in football? And I know there's been a lot of rules changes, but is it more difficult now to get kids to come out and play football than maybe when you started?
I believe so. I mean, the whole, I guess you can say the culture or the view of, football, and then, all the CTE stuff that's come out, and they're all valid points.
Right.
But still football and any sport for that matter, I mean, I think it's just a metaphor for life. I mean, a lot of coaches say that. It's coach speak, whatever it is, but I truly believe it. We've got a thing in our parent orientation from John Harbaugh talking about why football matters. And, the struggles that you go through in football, we talk to our guys all the time about how can we know success if we don't know struggle? How can we know success if we don't know failure? And that's what our winter program's about, is pushing these guys, trying to help them develop a work ethic. It's not like it was, I guess, 20, 30 years ago where, all these kids were farmers and they love playing football to get out of the field.
Yeah.
They don't love getting out of their bedroom from the PlayStation to come play football. I was in the bank this week and some of the tellers was like, oh, I just feel so sorry for those guys. And I'm like, well, we don't, and we tell them they don't have to, they get to, so it's all about a mindset and then trying to build an environment and culture to where their parents know that they're loved. And I mean, everything starts with that, where they're loved, you're going to be challenged, you're going to be pushed, you're going to be held accountable. And those things don't always happen in every part of their life, maybe not at home or whatever it may be, but that's what they're going to get when they come there. And, we've seen some kids that may be rough around the edges that buy into it and it works out for them. And then some and I tell them up front, if you can't be all in, me and you won't get along.
Right.
And we'll be friends when you're not a football player, so that's just part of it. It may sound rough on the outside, but, that's what we're going to hang our hat on, at least here.
Now, you talk about numbers being an issue, and you also talk about the quality of staffing and coaching. Do you have difficulty with getting assistant coaches and things of that nature?
I've been blessed with all the assistant coaches that I've had. This will be my 18th year, and every year I've had posted for assistant coaches. Right now I have 3 coaches, and will that change? I'm not sure. We had 6 coaches last year. Some of those are just not coaching anymore. Some of them took a job somewhere else, and we're working on hopefully getting some more in there. So anybody seeing this wants to coach some football, I mean, we need it. But again, I look on TSSAA, it's every county around us. It's not just one coach. It's 2 and 3 and 4. And then, even teaching jobs now, there's not a whole lot. I think somebody told me there was, less than 20 teacher people that graduated from tech or whatever. So, wow. I mean, even the profession itself. And then, like I said, the uncle that got me into this, he coached with me for years, at high school and loving to death. And he still sits in the booth with us on Friday night. He's not a full-time coach anymore, but he still knows what we look at and how we talk it. And he did it for years. So, I mean, he still sits up there. But now we're looking for coaches, and it's something that I've looked for every year I've been here. There's only been 2 years out of the 17 that I've had the exact same staff back to back. There's always been one change here, there, and the other. And I've talked to a lot. I said, on the outside looking in, it may look like, oh, man, DeKalb County must be awful. They can't keep coaches. But, some of those years it was like bringing players back that just graduated to coach with us, but then life happened, so they've got to go do that. So, again, even for my assistant coaches, I love them to death. It's still about creating an environment to where, we tell everybody, hey, we're never going to say that football is the number one thing in life, but it is a priority. And, but, yeah, we're looking, and it has been a challenge.
Coach Trapp, I want to go back to the 2008 season. Mm-hmm. That's your 4th season as head coach of the program. And you turn a corner, so to speak. Those first 3 years definitely were rough. Yeah. But that 4th season, 2008, you had some really great talent on that team. Yeah. What changed in 2008?
We were 3-27 going into that year. But really what that was, and for so many years, that first year, that group of freshmen were seniors in 08. Mm-hmm. And it was a group of kids that I had coached in junior pro. And for a lot of years after that, it was a lot of kids that I had coached in junior pro and things like that. But that group of seniors right there, I mean, athletically, it's not the top bunch that we've ever had here. But as far as being all in, being together, being bought in, and I said a few moments ago, how can you know success if you don't know failure? Well, they had their faces beat in for 3 years. I mean, because in 05, half the season, those guys were playing JV games and on Friday night. And I got halfway through it. I'm like, this is stupid. I can't have these guys doing that. But I only had, 30 guys. But we were playing JV games with them, and then they were all my starters. Wow. But I can remember that group of kids, that off-season, their junior year off-season going into senior year. I mean, they pulled me into their little meeting and it's like, Coach, we're not losing next year. It's not going to be the same. And they worked. I mean, it was like hey, Coach, can we get in the weight room? Coach, can we do this? Coach, I'm like, yeah, let's go. So they bought in. They made a pact amongst themselves that, hey, it's going to be different. And I can remember after the spring scrimmage, we actually scrimmaged Shelbyville that year. And, they got off the bus, and I'm just like, man, what have I done? I'm like, and we ended up beating them like 47-7. And I remember looking at Kevin Young, my defensive coordinator at the time. I said, are we that good? Yeah. Are we that good? I said, because we haven't been, but I don't know what good is.
Right.
And then we had another scrimmage that spring, and I can't remember, and I'm like, man. And then the fall scrimmages, we scrimmaged Tyner, which they was ranked number 2 in 2A at that time, and we beat them 40-0. I'm just like, are we that good? Mm-hmm. And then the first game of that year, I mean, we beat Warren County for the first time, and it was electric, and it just kept going, and we were competitive in every game, won the first playoff game ever in McMinn Central, but it was just those group of guys coming together and just saying, hey, we're not going to be bad this year.
Right. Coach, to follow up about 4 years later in 2012, and we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the team that I think a lot of people would consider the best in the history of DeKalb County football. A great team, I think 10-2 maybe to finish the season. Just a fantastic team. What are some of your recollections from that 2012 team and season?
Well, I talk about that 08 senior group maybe not being the most athletic bunch, but, together that 2012 bunch had the athleticism plus that.
Right.
Which when they were sophomores, a lot, Lucas Phillips, Will Molander, a lot of those guys, they were forced out there on that field. In 2010 is the last time we did make the playoffs, and we were 3-7. but it was that group of kids, a bunch of young guys that, hey, we're going to put you out there. They sort of did the same thing, in that off season, and that group of kids, if you go back and look at the time frame and all the sports at DeKalb County, that group ruled the roost in basketball, in baseball. We were good at everything, and it was that group. But they said the same thing. They're like, hey, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. And, we had 107 players in January that year. They got every one of their buddies to come out there. That's how important it was to them. That's when Tiger Pride really erupted.
Yeah. And
they bought all into it, but they had guys coming out. Now, we finished the season with 72 guys, but, it was just magical. It was fun. We had definitely learned and grew as coaches. So all of that was good. The legacy of Hunter Poteet kind of trickled down to Lucas Phillips.
Right.
Because he come in and was playing quarterback, and you just talk about a competitive bunch. There were times we had to pull them apart. It's like, hey, chill out. We're good. But that was such a fun year. And just those guys, it was the 50th year of football. I mean, it was just so magical. The 500th game in program history, just so many things seemed like it all come to fruition right there. But it was Livingston.
Yeah.
They beat us twice, so.
Talking about rivalries, and Livingston obviously is one. Folks consider Cannon County to be one. Who's the biggest rivalry for DeKalb County these days, you think?
Right now at this point, Macon County and us has played consecutively since 1991, I think. Yeah. So that's the longest consecutive. We went back and forth this last decade. So that, they beat us 3 years in a row. We beat them, and it's been back and forth. Mm-hmm. Right now, Upperman, I think that's everybody's rival right now because they're kind of at the top of the bar. And, we went back and forth with them too. Livingston's always going to be a rival. That's what, for me in school, it's like Livingston, And then they had their way with us there for a lot. And then, we finally beat them there. And then they got us. We beat them the last 2 years, but I'd say those programs right there just because of the longevity of how long we've been playing each other and then how equal it is between the records. Us and Cannon County, I think outside the fence it's a bigger rivalry. But I think they've only beat us 2 or 3 times, so that's no disrespect to them, but that's just, a true rivalry is when it does go back and forth and stuff like that. So, definitely Upperman, Livingston, Macon County, I'd put them up there.
Coach, let's just go back a couple of years. You were talking about the rivalry with Macon County, and back in 2020, you and DeKalb County and Macon County faced off for essentially the region there in Lafayette. That was a big moment for your program.
It definitely was. It was a great game. I remember you guys were there. Y'all filmed it and all that stuff, but just. And then the roles kind of flipped this year, almost identical. But, 40 seconds left to go in the game. We drive down, get a touchdown to ultimately win the game and kind of solidify our first region or district region championship ever for DeKalb County High School football. So it's very magical. Because coming into every year we set goals, and the first goal is always to win the region, all right, win the region. And it had never been done, So to be able to do that for the first time, 2020, as wild as that year was with COVID and everything else, and just – going home every night hoping your phone didn't ring, let you know, okay, you can't play or stuff like that. It's just so to be able to do that in those situations, it was just very magical. Just super proud of those guys. It was, again, everything went in 4-year increments. 8, 12, 16 was a good group with Jennings and all that, and then 20 with Axel Aldino and Desmond Oaks and those guys. But it all kind of happened the same. They all got put in there as sophomores, as young guys. Didn't really excel but went through those bad times, those rough seasons. We had a 3-7 years there. Still was fortunate enough to go to the playoff, but again, they just solidified, become upperclassmen and just knew what it took to be champions. And those guys stepped up and played some good football for us.
What does a win like that do for a community like Smithville?
Oh, man, well, I've told them when we do it right, any of our sports programs, when we do it right in a small town, it's magical. I mean, I tell them all the time when I go out to eat and my bill's already paid for when I get up to leave, I said, y'all have done something great. It's not because of me. Nothing has ever been achieved because of me. I tell them all the time, y'all are at the top of this thing. We're at the bottom just giving you direction. And he was like, if you could pick any vehicle you wanted to drive and you've got the keys, then that's how we want you to treat this. So you can even drive a Ford Pinto or you can drive that Ferrari. But, so make those type of decisions. We'll give you the path. But this community is awesome. I mean, just the things that we've been able to do, with our facilities and things like that, and just getting buses for us or feeding us or whatever it may be. I mean, all we have to do is ask, and they'll find a way. And it's not just with football. It's with our entire school system.
Well, talking about facilities, I hear you have a new addition going into your football.
Definitely, and that's another one of those things that, we just want to say thank you to our community for, because, our school is great, but it's hard to throw money at everything that needs money at, so our community helps us out a lot, and it's fully funded by, sponsorships in our community. But hopefully here within the next week or so we'll get construction up, but we're going to be getting a jumbotron or video board, as they're called now. It's going to be incorporated with our scoreboard, which we just got 5 years ago, so it was all brand new. But been told next week we're going to be getting that thing installed. And again, it's just something to enhance the environment on Friday nights for our fans, for our community. We want to give back to them. The last thing I tell our guys before we go in to get dressed is, make sure we do what we do to impact every eye that's here tonight. That's where everything starts with us. We don't talk to them about winning and losing, but just simply do what you do to impact people. And that's with football, with your homework, your job, whatever it may be. And that's how we can give back to them. And I want to believe that's why they're so generous to us also.
Coach, as we embark on 2022, you just wrapped up spring practice. And looking ahead, we hope and pray that for the first time in a couple of years we don't have to hear COVID to start the season. I know even the start of last year was a bit of an issue for a lot of teams. Looking ahead to this year, you broke in a new quarterback last year, but you've got some linemen to replace. And how do you replace an Isaac Knowles? That's going to be a tough task as well.
Definitely. And we've had a handful of guys throughout the years. People's asked, well, how do you replace them? Hunter Poteet, Abram Edwards. I'm like, well, you don't. You just hope and pray that you've got kids that seen them, that they've been impacted. And Hunter, I've had, Steve, man, I come and watch Hunter play every Friday.
Yeah.
I've had so many kids say that, and we tell our guys that, you don't know how much you impact once you're gone, the future of what we have here. So, we started the sophomore at quarterback, Steve Trapp, last year, and he looked really good this spring. He had a world of injuries leading up to last year, and just super proud of how he handled everything, and it still creeped up on him a little bit there in the season. That's where we found out Isaac, he's a pretty good threat wherever we put him. But,
right.
It was funny. I come to work last week, and there was a picture on my desk, and it was Isaac coming to a junior pro camp. And he had won a certificate for best defensive lineman.
Wow.
And I sent him a text back. I said, who would have thought the best defensive lineman in junior pro would be one of the best all-around players ever at DeKalb County High School?
Yeah.
And I put a little winky emoji and then texted him back and said, well, I had a hunch, and the thing is about last year's senior group, I had a son that was a senior. I coached with those guys or against those guys in T-ball and also I've seen them grow up, upward basketball. I've seen them, and I always had to coach against Isaac. And man, it was fun watching him play, but I'm like, man, I'll finally get to coach him when he's a freshman. I remember the first conversation we had, he said, I want to be a college football player. I said, well, I think you can do it.
Yeah.
So we had that, and now he's going to be at Tech. But, we've got a lot of our skill positions back. We're not going to replace Isaac, but, those guys that are coming back, they've got to step up their game. And, collectively together, they should be able to produce what Isaac did. Briz is healthy right now, and he's a big factor. He looked really good in our spring game. But, our bell cow right now is going to be Kobe Barnes. He's a 4-year starter at running back, half a year at freshman. He missed half the season with an injury, but I think he averaged probably 15, 20 yards a carry the other night in the spring scrimmage. And the last 2 years, he's swapped in and out offensive series just to keep him fresh.
Right.
Because he's a defensive end starter, too. And I said, this year, that's not going to happen. When you need to come out, let me know, and then I'll see if I need to get you out or not. But, so if he don't run the ball 20 times a game, I need to be fired. That's just like last year. If Isaac Knowles didn't touch it 15 times a game, I need to be fired.
Right.
But, and we do have 3 of our offensive linemen back with some size. We got Will Ferris at left tackle, Shady Rankhorn. He played all 5 spots. He's a senior. He looks the part, 6'5", 320. Ian Jones at center. So we do need to find 2 guards, and that's what we'll be working really hard on in June. Got some really good prospects after spring, but, we had all of our skill guys there, but we knew, defense looked really good in the spring. So I really love what Coach Shaw's doing there. And, we've got a senior group and a junior group that's pretty much stayed together their entire career. A lot of those guys that were playing together in junior pro are still here. They've stayed the course. So we're really excited what this team could possibly do this year for us.
Yeah, you talk about your defense. It's going to be really interesting to see what your defensive backfield is like, losing a couple of leaders back there.
Definitely. That's where we're probably hardest hit on the defensive side. We did lose our middle linebacker, Isaiah Harrington, which did a lot for us. But, we feel really good what we got inside. But John Ellis is really our lone returning secondary guy, and he played corner, but we're moving him to where Isaac played last year. He's kind of that type of kid. And but I tell you what, we only had 2 corners and 2 safeties in the spring, but those guys got a lot of reps, and they did a really good job. Like I said, we had, I think, 3 interceptions and a fumble recovery, and in the spring. So those guys, they really did a good job for us. We've got some sophomore guys that were in other sports for spring that's really going to come in, and we want them to push and compete to start, but it's really going to help with our depth and our competitiveness during practice also.
Yeah, I was wondering if there were some of those that may have been at track that weren't at the scrimmage the other night.
We had 5 or 6 guys at baseball. Like I said, most of them are sophomores. Now Ian Jones, he'll be a senior, but the other guys, like I said, they'll be sophomores. And we had a couple kids playing soccer and one guy running track. And all those guys, like I said, they can play some football. So like I said, they should compete and push to start, but also give us hopefully some good depth and then be ready to step in when their numbers called.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned depth, and that was one of the places I was going to go. When you talk about a team like Upperman or some of the bigger teams, is that what you find to be the biggest difference between teams that like DeKalb County and maybe some of those?
It's big. I mean, really, 2012 is the one year we had where we only had 2 guys going both ways. So we had a lot, but most of the time, but even with Upper, and a lot of their guys are going both ways. Coach Kane does a great job, and he's going to put his best guys on the field, and we tell our guys the same way. You only get 4 years to do this. I mean, so you tap out. I mean, come on, you're missing it, and we tell them if the water girl can get out there and throw a spiral, then we'll do it. So it's not about who you are. It's not about what grade you're in. It's about, are you all in? Are you working your hardest? Do you know what we need you to do? And then you get out there and compete. So. I mean, you've seen us for a lot of years. We'll start freshmen. We've had freshman quarterbacks, receivers, linemen. It don't matter. It's about being all in and getting the job done. And, like I said, those young guys just got to buy into the role and be ready to go when their number's called.
Coach, you talked about Trapp coming back this year. Another in a lineage of quarterbacks at DeKalb County, going back to Hunter Poteet, and you talked about Lucas Phillips. You've had Stephen Jennings, Axel Aldino. What's the secret, Coach? It seems like every year DeKalb County's got a pretty darn good quarterback back there.
Well, like I said a few moments ago, the greatest thing, Hunter was awesome. Great football player, but a lot of people ask me, well, what makes them all different? They was all competitors. They were all bought in. They were all about humbleness, and that's where I start with the quarterbacks, because they have to have a servant attitude. It cannot be about them. It has to be about everybody else. So I put them, and that's how I see myself as the head coach too. It's not me here, it's everybody else. Now, my first 2 years, I remember saying, we used to have a bonfire, and we'd be like, what's your goals? And I can remember saying for the first 2 years, well, I want to be district coach of the year. Mm-hmm. I want to do this. And I'm like, well, that's not ever going to happen unless those guys are right. So then It was about, I want you guys to do this, and I said everything else will take care of itself. But all those guys are humble, and that's what it was about. It wasn't about the yards, the stats, and some of them are still in the TSSAA record books to this day. But Hunter Poteet started it. Like I said, Stephen Jennings said, hey, when Hunter was quarterback, we watched every game, and Stephen wasn't a big-time football player, baseball guy, and things like that. But Lucas Phillips, same way. He was there, and like I said, Lucas come up. He was 5'0" as an 8th grader coming over there. I didn't think he'd ever be anything, but I'm telling you, he grew, but he was always competitive, and he knew what he wanted. Yeah. Like that. And then Axel, kind of the same way. Just, he knew what had been there before him. And I do tell him, hey, what kind of quarterbacks have been here. Yeah. So, yes, there's probably a little pressure there, but we tell them pressure bust pops in your flesh and bone.
Coach, let's transition a little bit to maybe the state of football. Gotcha. We're seeing a lot of movement of games now to Thursday nights. A lot of it is due to official shortage. What do you see as what is your thoughts on that, and what do you see as maybe a solution?
Well, I think everybody just needs to love everybody better. You go to A8. My daughter plays AAU. I go sit in the stands, and it's just like, man, what does it sound like on Friday nights? You know what I mean? So I just think everybody needs to love everybody better. Nobody's perfect, but the way these officials get treated, and there's a lot of great people that does officials. They make mistakes, and then there's some, I guess you could call turkeys or whatever, but I've never yelled at officials, because I've never seen anybody get yelled at and they're like, oh, let me change that call. We'll talk, and one thing that gets me is when an official don't want to talk. I just want to talk. But I think it comes down to that, and then this new generation, I don't want to knock on kids and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, anything worth doing is worth overdoing, and I think so much of it is, everything trying to happen so fast, and I think that's why a lot of kids don't like football. We start in January, but don't play anything that counts until August. So it's not clicking a button on your phone and getting instant weather or instant football win. So you've got to work, you got to grind, and that's what I love about sport. I mean, it's still, to me, I'm still a little old school, so it's about that process of work. And the one thing that, as far as kids that play football here at DeKalb County, the one thing I want them to leave with is a better understanding of a work ethic. And that's the same thing I tell the kids in class. I said, if you learn what we're doing in class or memorize it, I said, that's fine. I said, I really just want you to show up, know that you've got something to do, and then get it done. And it's the same thing with officiating. I just think we need to love each other better, respect those guys. At our scrimmage, one of my players was saying something to the official, and I was like, that ain't how we're going to do it. I said, because we're already moving games on Thursdays because basically nobody wants to do it because probably how they're getting treated. And, they don't want to get treated that way by some teenager. Sure. So it's going to be about respect, like it or not, because they are in a position of authority. And I just think that message needs to be preached more. It needs to be modeled more by coaches, So, like I said, I don't yell at them. Right. I'll let them know when I don't like what they call, but I'm not going to go crazy on them, and I let them know that I respect what they're doing, and I do appreciate what they're doing. Probably money would help them. I guess throw money at anything, people think that it helps, but, that's also the root of all evil. So it's got to come back down to the joy of doing what you're doing, but then how do we treat each other as human beings?
Yeah, it seems to me, I know a lot of times that the responsibility of the parental behavior or the fan behavior is put on the coach, and I don't know if that's necessarily the right place it needs to be put because you are concerned with, maintaining your team, your kids. Yeah. So I don't understand whether that's in a school official function or what, where that would fall.
I mean, where does it start? You know what I'm saying? I would say go to church. That's what I would say. Go to church. Because golden rule, and again, that's one of our 3 expectations. So I tell them all that. If you were and that's what I told my guy at the scrimmage, if you were the official, would you like a teenager talking to you like that? Well, no, I wouldn't. I said, okay, well, you just missed our expectations. So as far as the kids go, that's what we're going to preach. And no, they're not perfect. They're still going to mess it up. I'll probably still have a vein pop up on my forehead every once in a while over in a call or something like that. But, all officials watching this, I love you guys, and that's the thing. I'll let you know if I think it's wrong. And if I'm wrong, I want to be taught, hey, what's right? Because, we don't know all the rules. They have new ones all the time. But then as far as people sitting in the stands, last few years, I've not had an issue at all at turning around and looking at people. Just be like, are you serious? So, again, we can talk about it. We have the announcements before the game and all that. But still, for me, like I said, I remember doing an interview. You was like, well, what's Tiger Pride all about? If I had to define it in one word, it's people. So, to me, it all comes back down to just loving people.
Coach, this year, a milestone season. It's 60 years of Tiger football for the new DeKalb County High School. When I say new, going back to 1963, obviously it's not that new, but 60 years of Tiger football. This is your 18th season, and from somebody who's been there since the beginning, I don't seem possible either. But, how special is it to be part of a program that you grew up playing in, you've been part of as a coach for a long time? Just what all does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. Like I said, when I got the job, and like I've said a couple times here, I'll coach here or I'll coach nowhere. And, people, no, you wouldn't do that. Yeah, I would. Yeah. And I told them the day I got the job, I plan on doing it for 30 years, but 30 seconds after 30 years, I'm gone. Yeah. Now, I want to make it 30 years. I'll say that. With the landscape and everything, who knows? And so it's a year-by-year deal. But I love DeKalb County. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I appreciate everything that everybody has ever done for all sports, these kids, these parents. But it just seems like yesterday it was 50 years of football, and it was so magical, so really didn't put that together until you mentioned it a few weeks ago. And I'm like, man, it's been 10 years already. Yeah. And then like I don't know how many coaches in the state have been out of school 15 years or longer, or don't know. And I don't say that to be bragging or whatever, but like I said, this will be my 18th year, and I'm only 43, so I still consider myself young. A lot of guys maybe not get their first head coaching job until they're maybe 35 or 40, but we'll try to make it special. We want every year to be special, but we'll try to make sure that 60 years of DeKalb County High School football. It's just as special as that 50-year was.
We have the owner, Jeff Cawthorn, here with us. Jeff, first of all, we just got finished eating here, and I am a rib snob. I'm a self-proclaimed rib snob. You've got some of the best ribs, hands down, that I've ever eaten.
Thank you very much. I work pretty hard on them.
Well, we appreciate you having us out here today. Jeff, what was the idea behind the Lipstick Pig when you decided to open this place up?
Well, I had retired, and I'm former law enforcement, and I've never had been in the food industry, and my wife had, and we had talked about it, and she had seen this little building. She said that'd make a good little barbecue place.
Yeah.
So we came in here. It had sat vacant for 11 years, and we remodeled it, and the way it looks with the half wood and tin and everything, and that's her vision. So how we came up with the name, everybody's always asking, and me and my wife, we were talking, and she said, boy, it's looking a lot better. I said, yeah, but it's just like putting lipstick on a pig, And so that's how we came with the name of it, and we opened July the 1st of last year, and we've been rolling ever since.
That is awesome. What got you interested in wanting to cook barbecue? Is it something you've always loved to do?
I've always done it for family and friends over the years, for many years. I'm always the griller whenever we have a get-together or something, and so I've always enjoyed it.
We don't want to give away a whole lot of secrets, but when you're getting your barbecue, what are some secrets that you can share without giving away too much information?
I try to get the best meat possible, the best ribs that I can possibly get. Then I make all my sauces and my rubs. So, and that's ancient Chinese secret. So
okay, can't give away those secrets for sure. Also had a potato salad, and that was excellent as well. Is that homemade?
it is.
All right, special secret recipe there too.
Yes, it is. My mother actually comes here and makes it of the mornings.
Okay.
And no, she won't share her secret recipe with nobody.
Not even you?
No, not even me. Not even me.
Well, folks, I'm going to tell you some of the best barbecue around. Come to 326 West Broad in Smithville, the Lipstick Pig. Scott, there's some good eating today.
Oh, it was outstanding. I had the nachos, and I tell you, amazing, absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. They were wonderful. I would like to bring up. Tell me about this the table over here that you have at the door.
That is a missing man table. It's a military setting, but we here in a small town, I've used it to stretch it out to include our law enforcement, firemen, ambulance personnel, all of our first responders. What that table is set up for, no one ever sits there. That is for all the soldiers, men and women, all the first responders who has never made it home. And that is a table set especially for them, so they know that they'll always be in our hearts.
Well, amazing. Absolutely, you can tell that the care in the barbecue and the care that you give for your community, you can't fool that.
I appreciate everything that everybody has said about my barbecue and the support that we've gotten. I mean, I'm just very humbled by it.
Fantastic. Well, folks, again, when you're in Smithville, or just make it a point to come to Smithville, because I'm telling you, you're going to be in for some good barbecue. The Lipstick Pig, 326 West Broad is right here on the main strip in Smithville. Come by and see Jeff and Gina and get some good barbecue.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Time to get into some interesting questions, what we call the fun round or the fun questions. So I'm just going to, you talked about veins popping out of foreheads and things like that. What are some of the things that what really drives you nuts and what does that look like?
Man, well, I've got a couple famous sayings, I guess. They probably say them all the time behind my back, but one of them, it's a water break, not a vacation. So when they're taking too long, just hurry up and get going. Another pet peeve of mine, again, it's all about people. So just any kind of entitlement gets me with these guys. There's a time a year or so ago, I almost put them back in the old field house just because I didn't think they were grateful enough for what they got. But yeah, it's like I said, I'm a little bit old school. I may be one of those stay off my grass type of old men. So.
Well, we're not too far away from Center Hill Lake over there. So are you a fishing guy or a boating guy?
I had a boat a couple years ago. I sold it. Just never had time to get out on it with football. As a kid growing up, me and my dad, we used to go fishing out there, night tournaments, all that kind of stuff. I love pond hopping. That's what we called it when I was a kid, just going to ponds, catfish, bass, whatever it may be. Before I got into high school, every day when I got off bus, I was going down. I was talking to one of my guys about it today because he lives out there now, but there was a certain bridge I'd go to and just catch bluegill until dark. And that was still back when you heard your mama hollering for you, hey, it's time to come home. So, love the outdoors. I do a lot of hunting. So that's why we do a full week at Thanksgiving now, and I love it because I'm pretty much in there daylight to dark, except when I got to come out and eat turkey. So
now, I got to tell you a story about his hunting because I called this guy to do an interview one morning.
Yep.
He's up in a tree hunting and you're doing an interview, scoping out deer and doing an interview at the same time. So he loves his hunting and he loves his football. I can vouch for that.
It gives me time to get away. And I talked about, football has a priority. So 3 F's, we talk faith, family, football. So those are always going to come before football. But I do like sitting in that tree and just reflecting and love eating deer too. So it's good.
Well, I mean, for anybody that invests the amount of time you obviously had in the community and in the program, getting away, especially being alone in the deer stand, just you and the deer, has to be a draw.
Well, it's been real fun the past couple of years because my daughter has just now gotten into it, being able to take her and watch her kill her first deer and things. So it's been really fun. So when I'll ask her if she don't want to go, I won't take her. But if she wants to go, I'll make sure we do that for her. So it's fun.
Outstanding. Okay, so what drives you more crazy now? Missing the corner blitz, missing the read on the corner blitz, or Memorial Day traffic going to the lake?
Oh gosh. Well, I always swore against going to the lake on Memorial Day. I was always that guy that, hey, I'm going on a Wednesday in the middle of the day right after football, so nobody's there. So I don't really worry about that traffic anymore. Now I just go to the in-laws and sit around the pool. So it's definitely going to be missing that corner blitz.
Well, let's look at when you were playing. What's your fondest memory from when you played?
I loved football. Like I said, I graduated, 140 pound. I went and played baseball in college, but I loved football. But I guess I can remember, maybe my first touchdown. I was a freshman, maybe a sophomore, and we played Portland back then. But that was during their heyday, and they always took it to us. And I can remember being at the end, and you remember Ike Phillips. He was playing quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
But it was right there at the end of the game, and we got inside the 10, and I'm playing receiver, and Ike throws one so hard that it hits one of their D linemen in the helmet, bounces straight up in the air, and I catch it for a touchdown. The funniest part is my best friend's dad had a bet that we would not score a point, so he's mad at me because he lost $20 because I think the horn may have sounded as I caught that ball. So that's kind of a funny moment. But, I think I may have only won 7 games in the 4 years that I played, but I was a freshman. I had 2 brothers that were seniors. That was pretty special, and but I loved football.
Yeah. Well, in your 17 years of coaching, what are you most proud of?
Just what we've been able to accomplish, what our program means. Again, it's not about me on a pedestal. It's about getting these guys. And I can remember, in teaching school, what's it about? Well, my joy was found watching those 10-year-olds play football. Seeing them take something that they learned from me as their coach, as their teacher, then being successful, but more importantly, the feeling that come from it. So we talk all the time. Again, like I said, do what you do to impact people. When we won that playoff game in 2008, to turn around and see almost all of DeKalb County coming out on that field, I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. So it's not about the wins. We never talk to our guys about winning and losing. We talk to them about doing what it takes to get what you want. And just the philosophy that we have and how we've done it, that's what I'm most proud about.
Coach, let's talk about your kids. We hadn't had a chance to, and I know you mentioned them a couple of times, but I know you're a proud dad, and just to talk a little bit about your kids.
Well, just had one graduate last week.
Yeah.
Got another one that's a freshman. My daughter's a freshman. That'll be a tough one. But no, when I got this job, like I was telling them before you got here, I remember you doing an article about the people of DeKalb, and you had pictures of my daughter, and she wasn't even walking, and my son might have been 3, and it's hanging in my room. Wow. So I see that picture every day, and then just talking about how competitive the Trapp family was, and And yes, we've had a lot of Trapps coach and had a lot of Trapps play, but yeah, they're growing. Life happens. So now we're just figuring out where he wants to go to college.
All right, you're talking about the Trapps being competitive. What are they most competitive at?
Well, we used to get together and play badminton, and, we tear up some badminton. It doesn't matter what it is. We used to play volleyball, rook.
Yeah.
Me and Clarence, that's my uncle what got me into it. We're rook partners. Nobody wants to play us. So we'll play at Thanksgiving, and we don't lose. And then Christmas, we're like, man, do we have to play y'all again? So, yeah, we like being competitive, and we like being on top. So.
Well, gentlemen, I think the food is ready. So
that must be time to go.
I'm okay with that.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Tom, appreciate you as
Thank
always,
you.
man.
Good to be here.
Coach, nothing but good luck on the season going forward. We do appreciate you taking time with us.
Well, I appreciate what you guys do. Like I said, you've been around a long time, and when I got the job, and he was around, media is part of building and sustaining a high school program. So thank you guys for giving us coaches an opportunity to not only eat some good barbecue, but talk about our guys, talk about our community, and because it's a big part of what we do. So thank y'all.
Yeah. What was that?
How good was that food?
Oh gosh, this is great. Those ribs are amazing. I'm telling you.
Coach, how about yours?
Amazing.
Loaded barbecue baked potato. Can't beat it.
All right.
I went nachos, man. I just couldn't turn them down. Look, they're awesome.
Hey folks, we hope you enjoyed this presentation of Coaches in Q from the Lipstick Pig in Smithville. If you've been following us for the past couple of years, first off, thank you. You'd know that our annual Helmet Madness winner every spring gets a home game on our Spotlight Game of the Week schedule every fall. Well, DeKalb County won that this year, so we wanted to take a moment to officially announce the Tigers' place on our 2022 Spotlight Game of the Week schedule. It'll be on September 1st to kick off Week 3, a Thursday night clash between DeKalb County and Region 4 4A rival Macon County. Now, I'm personally looking forward to getting back over to Smithville to see that new video board that Coach Trapp talked about in this episode and get some Lipstick Pig barbecue as a pregame meal too. It's been a very close rivalry over the past few years, so it'll be a really good game to kick off our Week 3 coverage. The 2022 season is fast approaching, so make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and keep up with everything we do on our website, 615preps.com, as we get you ready for an exciting new season of high school football in Middle Tennessee. From all of us at 615 Preps, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you real soon.